Ouch. There we go. Woo. Hey, is this thing on? Hey, all right. Hey, Ronald Lee. And Jenny and David, how are you? All right. Got a little noodles in there. It is I, the Great Baldini. Back from the dead, sort of. Not really dead, just sort of less alive than I used to be. I don't know. Yes. Well, yes. Here we go. So let me see. Turn those guys off like that, and blah blah blah. Hey, how are you? So yes, I had scheduled today. I was going to jump in with David Best, my buddy in the UK over in Brighton. Well, we were going to do this yesterday, and then well, there was all kinds of stuff going on. He had some scrambled stuff, and then Madeline had a little blood sugar thing, which is bad because she's diabetic, and so we had to take care of that. And by the time we kind of got it all back together, it was too late. So we thought we'd try again, and then today he had some other things going on last minute. So anyway, here I am by myself, but I'm with you, so I'm glad to see you here. So thanks for coming. And sorry, big cup of water there. Trying to get it all put together here. So yes, it is a wild world out there, and I have been watching. So although I haven't been here chatting with you as much as before, I certainly have been paying attention to things and watching, looking around, and seeing the stuff that's going on. So and sometimes it feels as if, hey, if I really talk about what I see out there, right, then it sounds like I'm one of those fear porn guys, right, telling you, oh, the sky is falling, and I don't really feel like the sky is falling. I mean, I feel like the dominoes are all getting into place, and it does. My spidey senses tell me we're getting closer and closer and closer to things sparking off. And again, I don't want to be the one to blow the whistle prematurely because I don't want to be the boy who cried wolf. On the other hand, they say they've got dire wolves, and then it's not really so much a dire wolf. It is just sort of it's a really complicated and too much to get into right now wolf. They crossed supposedly 10,000 years, but bring it back a dire. Not really, but. Anyway, anything to keep you distracted from what's actually going on out there, right? So you've noticed that things are polarizing increasingly. That's no surprise. It's been doing that for a while. But things keep lining up. In fact, if I were to, let's see, I'll see if I can poke up here and then bring up, basically looking for a new, ding, 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 ding. We'll start, right there. And what I'm trying to get to is taking a look at Revelation and, can I get there from here? Nope. Oh, come on. That was sad. This is it fights me sometimes. I hope you guys are doing. Talk amongst yourselves for just a moment here as I try to go from. It's the upper display here. It gives me the one where I try to see things because my eyes are old. So I'm trying to get to something that I can actually see. But when it does that, it doesn't size properly. Oh dear. Let's see if I can do this. Okay. I think we're looking for that. Okay. Yes. All right. So I'm getting there. So hey, I hope you guys are well. Yes. And what I do know, right, is that once when I see that things are, kind of weird for me, or whenever things are difficult, I know that I'm not the only one, right? And so it kind of also makes me I've said this before, compassionate toward others, right? The things that I have gone through, while difficult, it also gives me pause, and it gives me I couldn't ever have known, for example, what people who were homeless were like until I was confronted with something very similar. I wasn't quite homeless, but really close. And my sense of it always was that people who were unhoused chose that, right? That they preferred that lifestyle over any other, right? And so I didn't think much about it, but then I found out how quickly things can happen, right, without your consent. And so suddenly you're like, wow, there is a whole lot of things, right, that I'm not aware of. I had never really been sick any time throughout my life, preternaturally healthy, quite frankly. Only had been really ill only one other time when I had, in my early 20s, allowed a bronchial infection kind of get out of hand, and I got kind of a walking pneumonia thing. And if my mom hadn't have found me, and I had moved to a new apartment and I hadn't even turned on a phone yet, I got sick, and she had to kind of figure out where my apartment was, and come get me and took me to the doctor. And then, but that's the only time that I'd ever been sick my whole life. Never even broke a bone until I don't know, a dozen years ago when it was icy here, and I slipped off a step, ice covered step, and tried to, as you do, catch yourself and got a little crack on my wrist. But other than that, never had anything wrong. And so it was shocking to suddenly be going through medical mystery diagnosis, and wishing I'd had Dr. House trying to figure out what was wrong with me with this neurological thing. And weirdly, the neurological stuff is because it's electricity. It's kind of like if you find electrical problems with your car, it's time you might as well give it up because it's so difficult. Once you get one thing figured out, something else happens, and it's on a downhill struggle from then. And your body, I think, is much the same. So it's like, oh dear. But the point being, having never experienced that, suddenly you realize why the number one cause of bankruptcy in the United States, right, is medical billing, right? That you get into where you can't pay your bills because of medical situation, and so that obviously tells us that there's all kinds of trouble. That, well, certainly we know that allopathic medicine, right? They don't want cures; they want customers, right? So they're not about to fix you; they want to keep you as a customer. One of my things, is that it's while there is a medication, amitriptyline does seem to help. There is, they don't have me on a long-term medication that they can get me on, So yeah, so maybe that's why they don't look as hard. I don't know, because it's one of those things they can't quite figure out. They like to have their God complex going on, and keep you in the guessing game. However, so my point being, I'm looking around us, right, and I see that the world is gone wild, right? Everybody's kind of struggling. There's a whole bunch of stuff going on. And we're like, hey, what is this? So point up here, and this is what I've kind of been looking for, and I've said this a number of times, right? Was I go through looking at the way things are going to unfold, eschatology, certainly the book of Revelations, the way you look, there's Daniel, and there's other things that indicate it. Well, I'll talk more about that in a bit. One of the things I kind of keep an eye on, right, is how things line up and in order. And and we've heard people say, oh, maybe they're doing it in order, right? They see the way it's written out, and they're going to try to make it happen that way. I don't know that my take on the people who are running things, they seem to be somewhat inept. I think that many of them, most of them, in fact, are themselves deceived. They have been promised things, and to a degree, it's probably been delivered. They get power, money, whatever weirdness they want that they're into, but they also are compromised, and so they have to do the things that they're told. But I think that they are pretty much themselves all deceived. I think that probably they are. If I had to guess, right, they're being promised some sort of immortality, which is probably will be granted them, but in a way that they don't expect. It's like if you make a deal with the devil, when you get in bed with the devil, sooner or later you're going to get, you know what I mean? So yeah, and because you're not that pretty, So he's gonna. It never works out. All the cautionary tales about the Faustian deal never works out the way you intend. So you can watch, Bedazzled or any number of modern movies, truth in the movies, lies in the news. But the truth is there. You can never outwit, your enemy. And, you did not specify. So, immortality? Sure, but so you're going to be tortured. It would have been better if you had just gone with the original way, because of what it looks like, according to, again, Revelation, that those who take the mark of the beast, it does give them that sense of immortality, but when everything is remade, there's no place for them to be, and that's why their torture is eternal, because there's no place for them to be. That is, to me, the bottomless pit. That's what I think it is. But everybody else, right? What Jesus said: "Don't fear him who can kill the body, but the body and the soul in hell." So, again, I think whenever he quenches everything. Those who are done have been quenched, and those who have been granted this weird immortality are with the other immortal beings, and they just they continue to exist, but in where there is no place for them to be, which would be bad. Okay. Anyway, this is the way I read it. I could be totally wrong, probably am. All right. In Revelation chapter 6, this is where the land that the Revelator John had seen, who had grabbed the scroll that nobody else was worthy to open. And that was in Revelation 5. In Revelation 6, he begins to open the seals. And when he opens the first one, there's a voice like thunder. It says, "Come." And this is where you get the four horsemen of the apocalypse, right? That's where you get it. This is Revelation chapter 6. And so, again, we begin looking for this, and people try to make all sorts of things fit. And again, I just look, right? I'm just, this is how I'm reading it right now. My view has always been that whenever it happens, we'll probably be able to see it more clearly. And at this point, maybe that's so. I'll tell you how I'm kind of reading it right now. This is probably old hat to you guys. I've been kind of saying this as we go along. But we heard the first one says, "Come." And there was a white horse. And the horseman on it had a bow. A crown was given to him, and he went out as a victor to conquer. Or it says, in conquering. See, literally went out conquering and in order to conquer. And again, I can read this as a crown. So literally a corona, right? A crown. That's why the coronavirus was called that, because it's shaped like a crown. And it had a bow, which could be like a jab, right? So we have something that's going to stick into you, a crown in that shape, and it was given to him as a victor to conquer, but conquering, that he might conquer, right? So again, that was, you could read this as being, that was the first step, right? That they used that as a pretext to take over. Again, you could be something else totally. I'm just saying, this is how it could be read. The second seal, another horse went out, a red fiery one, right? And its horseman was empowered. It was given authority to take peace from the earth, to remove peace, so that people would slaughter one another. That sounds weird, right? And so, again, we've often read that to mean war, right? That there would be war or world war. Certainly, again, that is happening. But interestingly, what I read that now, if I put this in context, is this polarization that we've seen, this polarity, that people are lining up and getting on opposite sides. And people, again, I'll share it with you eventually. I've got a couple of playlist in this YouTube account right here that I keep track of things. I have one called Earth Day, which is all these weird earth changes that is in this Four Horsemen thing right here. And also like Mad World, in which people are behaving in this crazy way where they begin to kill each other over, again, not just a road rage, but, over this gal in Seattle. A power lesbian, right? She has been. She killed her father with a ice climbing pickaxe ice climbing thing, because he didn't turn the lights off during the election, because who she wanted to win didn't win, and her dad didn't turn off the lights, and she lived with her dad, and she decided that was a capital offense. And that is, again, clearly not the only weird thing going on, but there are so many bizarre things. People losing their poop and just going, cuckoo. I think it is, to me, again, it looks demonic. It looks like people, one of the craziest things to me, and I see it every day. I don't like to talk about it, but one of the things that hurts me the most is seeing these people who take out their whole family and then themselves. Often, again, we relate that. The trope is a man, right? Often, deity, type of guy, doing the domestic violence type of thing. But not always, right? Sometimes it's the mother, and that is the hardest one. Hey, Liz, great to see you. But that is the hardest ones for me, right? Is the mother should do it, and I know that is. The Lilith spirit, right? This that wants to kill the children, the same one that wants them to take their children out. If it's not a Planned Parenthood, right? It's postpartum. It's after birth. Anyway, this is the thing that I see happening. This very strange and again demonic deal. Okay, third seal. Look, and there was a black horse, and the horseman on it had a set of scales in his hand, right? Then I heard something like a voice. And when I see this in the book of Revelation, what I often, when I see them say it was like, what I see around it, or the context that I read it in, is John, when he sees something or experiences something, he doesn't quite know what to describe it. So he says it was like this because he doesn't really know how to put it. And in this, I could, for example, I could picture this. He hears a voice, but it's going through like a speaker, right? He's experiencing it as though he hears a broadcast. And it sounds something like this, right? And it says, oh, the price of barley is going for this. And so he goes, it's something like a voice, but it sounds weird. And so, again, I could picture it. Doesn't mean I'm right. It's just a way. But this thing where a quart of wheat for a denarius and 3 quarts of barley for a denarius don't harm the oil and the wine. And again, I could very easily see this being, we have oil, energy. It is we have right now this trade war going on. It looks as though we have this as a big component to what appears to be everybody's talking about. And if you want, I can real quickly just demonstrate very quickly. If I go like this, I bet I will find something here about WW3, right? They're crying about it. And so it is pretty much openly happening, right? That we're, seeing what apparently is WW3 going on, and everybody's lined up in their axis. They call it their axis of resistance. We have axis of evil. So you got Russia, China, North Korea, Iran, the Houthis and their Hamas and all those guys, right? They all kind of get lined up together, and I think probably Turkey will go in with that. But you're going to have one side versus the other, and those lines are already taken up. We already have that. Philippines are lining up with Japan against China. They're already kind of starting to throw hot over there without telling us. So it is getting hotter and hotter. And so again, we have these events happening all over the place. And so we can easily see. Right, come back here. Okay, so again, we see this trade war in the fourth seal come, and we have a pale green horse, or a pale horse, and its name was Death, and Hades was following after him. Authority was given over a fourth of the earth, right? It doesn't mean that a quarter of people would die. It just means a quarter of the earth, a quarter of the place, to kill by sword, famine, plague, and the wild animals. So again, you could extrapolate that to mean whatever you want. These things always happen, but the interesting part here, right? Kill by sword. We have, of course, war going on. Famine, that is definitely going to happen. Ukraine, ships right now, supplies about 18%, and up to, at times, 30% of the world's grain. Especially sub-Saharan Africa. So, I'm glad you're here, Liz. It's delightful to have you. And even having 8 people is pretty wild to me, because having not done this forever, I expect nobody to be here, and that people just kind of fill in as they can. So having anybody here live is amazing. You guys are the best. So and I'm so difficult to listen to. I know, because without the teeth, it's really hard. But I'm trying to do my best. All right, so this thing here, authority given to a fourth of the earth, kill by sword, right? Famine. Again, I think there's going to be food supply problems, and we're going to, they culled a bunch of chickens over here, so that meant there was an egg crisis. They're going to do the same thing. So keep in mind that over the last 100 years in the U.S., on 4 separate occasions, as part of what they do, like the Great Depression and what they did in 1987 and 2008, they give people who don't deserve it a lot of credit, undeserved credit, and then they crash the market. Those people get foreclosed on, whether it's house or whatever. Earlier on in the Great Depression, right around the Dust Bowl, right, so they took everybody's farms, the family farm, pushed them off and put them into the cities, just like they're going to do again. But they push them off the farm, and it becomes these super agro farms. And now we know that Bill Gates and the Chinese and everybody's buying up these super chunks of land. And so they have, over a period of time, and very, you know, sneakily, just the same way as the industry that I was in, Guitar Center, or if you look the general economy, Walmart. What they would do is they'd go into an area like Walmart, for example. They'd open up a store. Before they open a store, they would send people in to go shop around and see where everybody in that town bought their stuff. And usually, in the small towns especially, you'd have little mom and pop shops who had been there for 30, 40, 50 plus years, and everybody went there. And so they'd go and find the things that they would sell, and these are they price check them, and hey Nemo, great to see you. And so they would get all this stuff, and so then Walmart would open a store, and what they would do is do what's called a loss leader, and that means you sell something at a loss. You actually sell it for less than you buy it for, and already Walmart gets they have the power of compounded, or the purchase, right? So they can get a deal by buying a whole bunch. So they already have an advantage there, and then they sell at a loss, and so the locals can't compete with those prices, and that means eventually they run out of business. And as soon as they run out of business, then they bring the prices back. But now they've got a chokehold on every small town in America. What used to be a Dairy Queen in every little small town. If they had no place to eat out, there was one place to eat, and that was a Dairy Queen. At least that was true in Texas. But you'd have one, but most of them were mom and pops, right? And so now all over America we have no more mom and pops, either in pretty much all the things, because Walmart, remember, does clothes and food and furniture and all the things. So they shut everybody down. So there's no more mom and pop shop. And then, I'm sure everybody here already knows that they're in bed with FEMA, and they just turn those things into FEMA camps instead of. So when they stop the trucks, nobody's going to get anything. That's kind of what I'm getting to, is they have a chokehold on the entire supply chain. And so when they turn it off, you're going to be 100% dependent on the government. And I've noticed this because, again, whenever we had trouble, especially initially, right, the only way you can get help from the government cheese, right, is that you have to get rid of everything you have. They won't help you enough to get out of it. They don't want you to work your way out of it. That's a no-no. You either do it on your own with no help, or you have to get rid of everything you have. You can have no assets. You can have not a dollar in the bank, no place to live, like nothing. You can have no assets whatsoever. And then they give you just enough to almost make it, but not quite, right? Which makes you then kind of cheat to and then they got you. Right, so when they got you completely dependent and cheating a little bit, so you're compromised, they have you in a chokehold. Well, this is exactly what they want to do with everybody. The stack them and pack them. We all know this is coming, or at least you probably should already, because they've been telling us for decades with the truth in the movies, lies in the news. They show us, right, just like Judge Dredd, or just like Divergent, or Hunger Games, or any one of a number of things, where they, air quote, rewild everything else. You don't get to go out there, or they kill you. And when you're inside, they tell you it's for your own good, right? If you go out there, there's terrible things out there, but they don't want anybody out there making it on their own. When you're inside it, it's an air quote smart city, and anything that's smart means that you're dumb if you accept it. But when they turn off the grid, right, when they have 5 or 6 different ways they could claim that happened, they've been telling us for 15, 20 years now that we have a very vulnerable grid system, at least here in North America, that could be attacked by Russia, or China. China is a terrible China. It's a terrible thing. The biggest. It's bigly. They could just turn it off bigly. But what they'll do when they turn off the power, right? And as we watch, Madeline and I, we watch the kids, and so many of them have gone from can't just not cook, right? They can't boil water, to they can't use anything that doesn't come in a microwave. And even some of that they can't use. So when they turn the power off, right, nobody will be able to do anything. And they've already been running these tests, right, for, again, 20 plus years now, dark skies events, where they figure out, what would happen if the power is out for, 3 days, 5 days, a week, a month. And pretty much you can expect what it'll look like. It's going to be the worst part of zombie movies, right? In the better part of 4 or 5 days, people will start to eat each other because nobody has any water, and they don't even have enough food. And those that do, right, they're going to get overrun. And those who have weapons, right, they're going to find out that without cartridges, if they aren't able to load their own, they're worthless. They're an expensive club, because if you can't make more shells, right, you're stuck. That's why I have a crossbow. Just saying. I mean, not saying, just saying. You can make bolts out of anything. All right. So, in any case, here we have, back to this, I digress all the time. So, a fourth of the earth killed by the sword, right, fighting famine, food, and the supply chain, plague, right, and they've done the pandemic, and they're going to do another one. They've already been telegraphing that. Oh, Fauci has been out again, and saying, oh, when the next one comes, so we know it's going to come. And by the wild animals, right? And here's one where I'm like, you can't fake that, right? That's going to happen. When that happens, we'll see it, and we're seeing it. And so I've been seeing orcas that are sinking fishing boats, and bears that instead, not just where they come in the liminal spaces where they come into contact, but they're like literally coming in and attacking people, and not just that, like raccoons, and not just the ones with rabies, not just rabid ones, but they don't like us. Birds, crows, ravens, magpies, they don't like us, and suddenly they're turning on us. Sharks are suddenly becoming a really big problem, where in the past they would go, oh, more people die from hippos than shark attacks, which is true, but the sharks are they're going up. So very interesting to me that these things are happening, right? And then the next things that come around, they keep saying that the god of chaos, Apophis, asteroid, right, it's probably going to hit us in about 4 years, right? Which lines up very nicely with the next one, which is Revelation 7, that we get. Revelation 8, I guess, is when we get the first trumpet, and here what it looks like is a great something. The second angel blew his trumpet, and something like a great mountain ablaze with fire was hurled into the sea. It also, other translations, a great mountain all ablaze, hurled into the sea. If you think of the movie, what is it called? Armageddon, yeah, with Die Hard guy. Anyway, yeah, they've been telegraphing it, right? In fact, that year there was 2 movies, right? There was two asteroid movies. But here they go, all right? And a third of the sea became blood because, of course, they already tell us that if that happens and it hits in the sea, it's going to burn the oxygen out of the sea, and what we would get, anaerobic, and then we get red tide, right? So, and a third of the ships were destroyed. You can pretty much exactly, say that if an asteroid hit the sea, that would happen. All right. So again, all I'm getting to, right, is that it looks like it's possible, right? It looks like it's possible. That's what I'm getting to. And so, but here's where I have been really of late paying attention and finding some really interesting stuff here, right? I have been as I tell people, and like David and Jenny, they've been terrific, and Daryl Davis, and people have been super great to stay in touch with me, right? And one of the things I say is that when things go poorly for me, the first thing I do is head toward the arms of Dad, right? That's where I want to be. And when things are bad for a long time, well, that's where I am all the time, is praying, and so that's a good thing, right? It does keep me there. And so one of the places that he has led me back to is the book of Isaiah. And as I go through it, I'm finding really wild things. And there's so much to get to. But as I go through the book of Revelation, right, one of the things that I see is like a possibility, right? I'm trying to match things up and make things work, and just kind of see how they go. One of the things that I see there is, and what I see according to the lore of these United States, and sort of we go back to the hidden history and Tartarian Empire and mud flood, and what's the reset? I mean, right? It looks like we might have a situation such that, right? We again are kind of coming into this. cut to the chase here, the TLDR. I think that again, what it appears to be is that when they set up this country, these United States, it is a rebuilding of Babylon and Atlantis. Right, they're trying to make the new world order is actually the old world order brought resurrected from the dead, like Phoenix, right? Phoenix rising. That's you know that's the part coming. So it's I was like, okay, does that line up? And in a couple of places it lines up really well. I'm going to show you a couple of things that just kind of blew my mind. So anyway, what I'm saying is that Dad has led me. I had listened. I often will put my earbuds in it, which is bad, I know, but listen to the Bible. It's read out, right? So this U version right here, they have an app, and this thing right here, that little button, it will read it to you, right? And so often when I'm taking a nap or whatever, I'll let that go, kind of the osmosis, learn while you sleep thing. But it does keep the scripture around me, and sometimes things do just grab me, and I go, wait, what? Which is really cool. And so I had been doing Revelation for a long time, and then some stuff in the New Testament and stuff in the Old Testament, like Daniel, picking things up. And of late, Isaiah has really been grabbing me. That's what I'm getting to. And then I saw these correlations that were just like wild. And I'm going to show you a couple of those. So one of the things in Isaiah that felt like Dad was encouraging me is that I have felt throughout this experience, right? Like I have wanted to be encouraging, right, and be here for you guys, and to continue to be an encouragement and try to just keep plodding on, heading toward home, and then in getting sick unexpectedly, and then all the things going on, and I just I couldn't, the only battle I could fight was just the battle for my life, and so trying to just focus on the things that I needed to just stay alive. But in part and parcel of all that is the physicality of it, myalgic encephalomyelitis, and what it causes in terms of orthostatic intolerance, and I can't do very much before I get ill. And so even around the house, right, you feel like you get behind. And so I feel condemned, right, or at least, a sense of responsibility around things like go to the ant, thou sluggard, and sloth. I don't want to feel like I'm being slothful, and when I can't help, what am I even for, right? And I told Madeline just yesterday. I just repeated. I said, purposelessness is the worst place that you can be, right? It's worse even than hopelessness, because without a purpose, what are we even here? And I have felt purposeless. I couldn't even talk to you because all the news is bad news, and who wants to hear that, right? I don't want to be the bearer of bad news. That's not who I am, and it's not, I think, what you need. And so I want to, again, not bring shame to Dad. If I'm going to claim his name, right, I want to at least do good and not be an embarrassment. So I felt, again, guilty, and the beautiful thing is, what I'm getting to is in Isaiah, he was telling me, right, that you don't have to be afraid, right? Isaiah 54:4, don't be afraid, and you won't be put to shame. Don't be humiliated, for you will not be disgraced. You will forget the shame of your youth, and you will no longer remember the disgrace of your widowhood. Indeed, your husband is your maker, and his name is Yahweh of hosts, and the Holy One of Israel is your Redeemer. He is called God of all the earth, for the Lord has called you. Like a wife deserted and wounded in spirit, a wife of one's youth when she's rejected, said your God. I deserted you for a brief moment, and that's how I felt, right? Like his spirit was far from me. Like, why have you forsaken me, right? What did I do? How did I fail you? Right? Like I tried so hard. What have I done wrong? What I do, right? I'm no longer of value. I can no longer do what I promised I would do. And now he says, I hid my face from you for a moment, but I'll have compassion on you with everlasting love. And then here, verse 9, this is like the days of Noah to me. Oh, wait, what? I've heard that before. Matthew 24. As the days of Noah were, so the coming of the Son of Man will be. What? He ties it together. Wham. And I'm like, wait, what? And so what I also saw, right, in this Isaiah to Revelation connection, and here we have the Matthew 24, which is about the end of days, and when the disciples ask him, "What are the signs of these things in your coming?" Right, and he says, "As the days of Noah were." This is deep down, 37. He's already gone through this whole thing. This is right toward the end, right? As the days of Noah were, so the coming of man will be. And so I look at this. So I come back then to this place where here, Revelation 11, right? So I had said that I have a feeling, right, like they're trying to rebuild Babylon, right? And so that ties into Babylon in Revelation, right? Babylon is fallen, right? Well, interestingly. So I come here. This is an interesting part in Revelation 11, the two witnesses again. Everybody tries to make that different things, and I think there's a lot of people that get it wrong in different ways. But the one I want to focus on right now is one mistake I think that gets made is the first part, right, is given a reed like a rod with these words, "Go and measure God's sanctuary and the altar, and count those who worship there." And so we're at a place now, it's like, so this is the dividing line between those who are following and those who are not, right? So we're going to measure. You're going to use the measuring rod, and you're going to it's going to be used to select who follows and who does not, and exclude the courtyard outside, right, the sanctuary. Don't measure it because it's given to the nations, right? So outside, that's going to be the people who don't make it, right? And they'll trample the holy city for 42 months. Now see here the holy city, right? So note that they're calling it the holy city. Well, important here because now you get the two witnesses, right? They do their deal. I'm just going to skip over that because when it comes to the end of that, it says, right, that they're martyred. When they finish their testimony, the beast that comes out of the abyss makes war with them, conquers and kills them. I think you're probably familiar with the story. We'll probably touch on it again later. I think it's important in the whole story. But here we go. Their dead bodies will lie in the public square of the great city, which prophetically or spiritually in some translations, spiritually, symbolically, you can see here spiritually. So a translation prophetically, spiritually, symbolically is called Sodom and Egypt. Okay, well, it says where also their Lord was crucified. So immediately people often want to go back to it's got to be Jerusalem because that's where Jesus was crucified. Why would he call Jerusalem prophetically Sodom and Egypt? Although people will say, well, it's because they abandoned God. But if you go back up here, right, it says the holy city. So it's still considered holy. So how is it both holy and Sodom and Egypt at the same time? Okay, so I'm just asking questions. So I'm just trying to put this together. But when I come back here, the great city, I have found several places where I think the great city is Babylon, is the United States. I think that, right? Again, it's not trying to be Americentric. It's just that it would be weird through this whole thing. And again, there's kingdoms, and I think those kingdoms, again, are more spiritual. And then the United States, right? It's the culture, it's the Babylon culture. So what is the United States? How have we influenced the world? If I say we, I'm talking to the people who live here, but Western culture generally. How has it influenced the world? Well, the number one things is Hollywood movies and music, right, and television. So those things are all, as we know, captured completely and controlled by the beast system, right? We talk about it fairly regularly, that it is the Babylon, the beast system, right, that pushes that out there. Well, that is the worldwide system. So it is our kingdom, whether we're talking about the United States as a government or really the Babylon kingdom, right, that and it is the leading kingdom. And we also have the other kingdoms, right, which is like we have the Muslim world kingdom, right, and there is the sort of the Catholic world, the South America, Europe, kind of to a degree, that sort of Catholic sort of religion there, right? So you have these this three-headed thing, right? And then you have the beastie beast, the nihilistic worshipping of technology, which is also coming. So we have these different kingdoms. So in any case, we have these things. So I saw prophetically called Sodom and Egypt. Well, where do I see that again? Well, I come back to like 19. Look at this, an oracle against Egypt. This is in Isaiah. So if it's called Egypt, what I found here, interesting. An oracle against Egypt, right? What's going to happen? The Lord rides on a swift cloud and is coming to Egypt. Egypt's idols will tremble before him, and Egypt's heart will melt within it. Now, I'm going to make this connection and see if you. Okay, before I make this connection, here's what the premise, the backdrop against what I want to put this, right? And you've probably heard me say this before, but probably never, perhaps not as full-throated as I am now. And I tried to put it into a Facebook post, and I kind of put it poorly. I'll try again, right? That if we consider the world, right, in a way, kind of like this, right? This interconnectedness of all things. That there is this aether, right, that flows through everything, and we are part of it, and that the entire creation is a mirror, as above, so below. And so there's this giant, toroid of energy that we live in this dielectric inertial accretion disk, right in the middle. So as above, so below. There's a positive and negative aspect to it. And everything that exists does so because it's at a particular frequency. It vibrates at a certain frequency, and therefore it appears to us, because we're within that same frequency range, right? We have a spirit that inhabits a organic meat suit that exists within this space. In other spaces, multiple dimensions, right, then those vibrate at different, and that's why they can kind of move through. That's why we have multidimensional beings that can kind of move through. Hey, Victor, great to see. That kind of move through our dimension. They're there, occupying the same space, if you will, but not space as we think of it. Okay, so in that same idea of the entire being a holographic fractal portion of the rest, right? So it's all, each little part is a representation of the whole. And so just like, for example, ice crystals or snowflakes, you see these patterns that appear and reappear just like we see in these fractals of cymatics, right? So when we see this kind of pattern, it speaks to us, right, that this is the same types of things that we see throughout creation. And so we also know that it is from the Creator. Right. And so with this as the backdrop, and understanding that if I look at these major prophets in the Old Testament, typically we look at Isaiah, for example, Isaiah 54, where I was before, right? And as the days of Noah, this is also where we get, right? If I come down here a little bit more, let me show you here, right? It's in the same chapter, right, that we have that no weapon formed against you will prosper, right? And you will refute any accusation against you. All the way around these, we see the things that indicate, this is talking about, for example, the Holy One of Israel, right? So everything that's talking about Isaiah, we typically read, and the typical interpretation is it is forecasting Jesus, and it does. But if we take everything as having multiple bits, right, it's a fractal of the whole. Then we open the doorway to what we have seen before, which is when people often, when they get the interpretation of prophetic things wrong, it is often like what I've seen. Think of the Mothman prophecy, right? All the things that were prognosticated came out really the way he said it. It's just the interpretation was wrong, right? And so the prognostication is right. Our interpretation is wrong until it happens, and you don't know until you see it. And I think that is how it is with much of this stuff. That's why I kind of put away the idea of eschatology many years ago, because while it says clearly in the book of Revelation, don't seal it up. In the book of Daniel, which is locked in, part and parcel, they just tell the same story. In Daniel, it says it's locked up and it's hidden until the time of the end. And so my understanding of that was, well, we won't be able to really understand it until it happens. And when it begins to happen, Daniel will unlock, and then we'll be able to understand Revelation better. And I've held to that, and I think it's happening. And yes, I've gone back to Daniel as well. But what I want to get to here is these connections, all right? So come back here to Isaiah 19 and relating to this idea of Babylon being spiritually Egypt, right? And so Egypt's idols will tremble before him. Egypt's heart will melt within it. Now watch this. I will provoke Egypt against Egypt, and each will fight against his brother, and each against his friend, city against city, kingdom against kingdom. Now, if we put that right in terms of the time of the Civil War, right, we're going down this, we have this new kingdom. It represents a new kingdom. So the Civil War would meet that, right? Each will fight against his brother, and then the very next thing, Egypt's spirit will be disturbed within it, and I will frustrate its plans. Watch this. They will seek idols, ghosts, spirits of the dead, and spiritists, and I will deliver Egypt into the hands of harsh masters, and a strong king will rule it. This is exactly what happened after the Civil War in the United States. Is suddenly there was a big opening into spiritism, and for a couple of different reasons. This was right during and part of the Industrial Revolution, and so people were beginning to see new things, electricity, and these new inventions that were coming out, and they and many of the people that were doing these inventions, like Tesla and Edison, right, and DeForest, they were trying to make, and they saw no distinction between using technology and the idea of trying to contact the dead, right? And so it was well accepted and subscribed to that Spiritism wasn't any different than this sort of modern miracle of electricity. It was a scientific endeavor that they could push forward with. And Edison and Tesla both dedicated a great deal of time to trying to understand. Edison made a air quote spirit radio, tried to pick up the transmissions, as did Lee DeForest with tubes. Tesla tried a thing as well, and didn't speak much on it afterwards, which is a very interesting study if you want to go down that rabbit hole. But Spiritism was followed right on the heels of that, exactly as described here, that brother will fight against brother, and then they go straight into spirits of the dead and spiritists, right? And then they kind of took that and made it kind of woo, and they separated and they made science the new priest of the day. So by the time you get to the turn of the century, the early 1910s, and you get the first flight, and suddenly they've got the propaganda, right, or the marketing that science is the new priest of the day. And then you get Rockefeller coming in and taking over all the medical institutions that would teach people how to be doctors. And so instead of becoming homeopathic and using generations of plants and all that sort of stuff, natural remedies, now the only thing that they would use is allopathic, because it comes from chemicals, and who owned the chemicals? Rockefeller, right? So then they put people on the board of colleges, and we'll give you all this money, but you have to teach what we want. And so everybody then became allopathic, and they said that homeopathics were quacks. And then again, other things. Now a couple of world wars, we introduced new technology, and suddenly everybody's very comfortable with technology, and that is the new priest of the scientist. And what do we have now? Right? They've just demonstrated that. So in all of these things, it's consistent with what we see with Scripture, right? And what we see here that comes into chapter 8, or verse 8 and verse 9 of Isaiah 19 looks like it skips forward to what is described in Revelation 13, what happens to the Babylon at the end, where Babylon has fallen, and nobody will, there will be no traders, nobody will make anything there, right? Apparently, U.S. gets blown up real big. Right, and so you can definitely, again, prognosticate or speculate, right, that some combination of, let's say, they get the Apophis, air quote, asteroid, the big rock, which is again exactly what's described in Daniel 2, with the rock that comes out without human hands and hits the big image, which represents the kingdoms, knocks it at the feet, so it lands at the very last kingdom that is separated, the iron and the clay, and it breaks into a million pieces and instead becomes the mountain. Well, again, that also uses the imagery of a rock that comes out without human hands from, air quotes, space, or comes down, and we have a rock that's on fire in Revelation chapter 9. So, yeah, very interesting stuff here, and they correlate really well. So that's kind of what I'm getting to, right, is if you, what I really want to get to is that if you let the Spirit guide you into all truth, right? Then you don't have to worry about what is and what isn't. I've had some concern about some friends, right? And again, I don't know for sure, but I know like a lot of people are into this idea again, the kind of connecting Tartaria and the resets with the potential idea of being in the little season. Again, not going to get into it too deep right now. I've looked at some of the reasons I think for it, and they can be kind of compelling arguments, but there are reasons why I don't think so, and I'll try to get into that later. But I think it's because, again, all the things have to fit. And Jesus said, not one jot or tittle will change until all has been fulfilled. And that's full field, right? All the way filled. And so there have to have been some things occur that haven't yet, or at least we don't know about it. And it would say every eye shall see. So there's a number of things, and I think that while there are reasons to think so, part of the thing is again that we get into this what we see here, these idea of the fractal nature of it and holographic, is that we will see numerous I'd say pre-fulfillments or alternate fulfillments, and this where we are now might be one of those, right? But it does match in a lot of ways, right? So I think it's not a not a surprise that it should appear that way. I think every generation, right, since Jesus has said, look, keep sharp, look alive, because when you don't expect him, he comes like a thief in the night. And for everybody who has lived between there and then and now, when it says he's coming soon, well, it certainly came within 50, 60, 70 years, right, within their lifetime. At some point, everybody draws their last breath, and sometimes when you don't expect it, right? I mean, I can certainly speak to that when suddenly I have to look my mortality right in the face and realize that I may not be here much longer, right? I mean, I don't know. Right now, we've mitigated things a bit to where it's not degrading as fast as it was because it was kind of scary, but I still don't know, right? And so, without that knowledge, I have to consider that everything is the way he says it is, and that's where I've come to, right? I think the whole point of all of this is that we can trust him. I may not know, my ass from a hole in the ground, but I know I can trust him. And so I don't have to know the answer, but I just have to know that he is good and I can trust him. And then nothing else matters, right? Whatever happens with me, I'm not the main character. It doesn't matter. I only live to serve him. And so anything that he asks of me is more than okay, whether that is to, die peacefully in my sleep or to, die horribly and be drawn and quartered and set on fire. Okay. Right? Like, ideally, that's not, I wouldn't want to endure that. But if that is, then wow, he really trusts me a lot, right, to go through that and not, give up. So I really, again, commiserate with Job, in terms of what he went through and that he would not, curse God. And I certainly won't either. I've said over and over, though he slay me, yet I will trust him because he is trustworthy. I mean, and you don't listen to me, right? Scripture says, "Taste and see that the Lord is good," and that's my encouragement to you, right? Don't go there because of me, right? Just see if He's good. Test Him, ask Him, and be transparent and honest, right? Be sincere. A contrite spirit and a broken heart, He will not turn away. So that's my experience, and that's what Scripture says, right? That if you come to Him and really are seeking, He will, with open arms, accept you. He wants to be with you. And the reason the enemy is so determined to get you, right, is because the only way that the enemy can hurt the Creator is to hurt him, right? To hurt the Creator by killing the things that he loves. It's like a spurned lover. If I can't have you, nobody can. And so he cannot harm the Creator, but the only thing he can do is harm what he loves. And so he tries to steal as many souls of his children as possible, which I find, both horrific and terribly sad. Because I think that the primary thing that keeps us away is the original sin, which is pride. Pride. and we don't trust him. What if it's wrong, right? What if he makes a fool out of me? So it, that's at risk, like eternal life versus eternal potentially. What to me would be torturous, right? Again, not as a punishment, but as the result. But the wages of sin is death. It's not a punishment. It's when you unplug from the power, when you get away from perfection, anything other than that is imperfection, and imperfection will perish, especially in the presence of the perfect Creator. And so, if you are in the presence of the perfect Creator and you have not been reconciled into a place of being perfect, and you are imperfect, it will just destroy you. I guess ideally, right? It'll be as if you never were. Worse would be, again, if you were gifted, air quotes, a type of immortality from being multidimensional that was given you with a promise from the enemy, right? Hey, you can live forever. Right before everything is destroyed and recreated, and you end up nowhere. Right? That sounds terrible to me. And again, I'm not trying to scare anybody. I'm just going, that's how I read it. And I think the alternate, which is being in the presence of the very definition of love and all knowledge and perfection. I can't wait. I can't wait to get there. Kids, I love you so much. I'm so glad to see you. I have missed you terribly. I can't even tell you just how much I have missed wanting to come here, and I would get sick so often. But now I think at least a little bit. I've been able to hold on this whole time. Sometimes it's a little tough, but I think we're be able to do it with some bit more of regularity. I hope. So let's see here. I'm gonna try to throw on a little tunage here on the way out. So thanks again for coming. Again, you can reach out to me anytime at unintended.consequences3@gmail.com. Or hit me up on any of the other ways. Leave a message or whatever. You can put a note in the comments if you want. But anyway, I'm super delighted that you came by, and it's great to see you. And we hope to do it again with some regularity. We'll try it out. Liz, it's so great to see you here, right? And for everybody who came by, hey Joe, great to see you as well. So yeah, it's if thanks for coming. So we'll continue to try to keep going. Continue to pray for me, and I'll continue to pray for you. I think I got most of the stuff worked out for medical. We're kind of in the back to the house, figuring out what the next things are, and then my car died, so that has been a shock. And then so I think we've now come to a place where at least we have some I'd say emergency transportation kind of figured out. Now I can try to figure out how to get another vehicle. I think this one's dead, so we're gonna have to try to get another one. It's a hassle. I wish I just had a horse. It'd be easier. Anyway, I love you guys. Thanks again for stopping by, and we'll try to do it again real soon. We're hoping again for next week, and we'll just keep trying. Love you guys. Be well. Take care.